From the shadows of the National Palace
to the muddy trenches of politics. This is La Posilga, the pigsty of dirty politics. Greetings.
You creatures in this dump called Mexico, welcome once again to La Posilga, the only corner where the dirt isn't swept under the rug, but instead is analyzed with a magnifying glass and called out by name. Here begins your daily dose of reality, unfiltered, straight from the filthiest corner of national politics. I'm Luis Berman, and I remind you that in this place, the pigs don't just grunt. They also collect a government paycheck. Today, we bring you a topic that has more than one national hero on edge. With their sphincter tighter than a Swiss safe, Uncle Sam has brought out the visa guillotine, and it seems that Morena is the neck on the chopping block. We have a feast of organic waste straight from the desk of the manager at the National Palace, who's already scared shitless. Everything seems to indicate that the second floor of the transformation is sinking before they even finish laying the first brick. Let's begin. It turns out that up north, Uncle Donald has already set his sights on the narco-politicians at home. The prestigious newspaper Los Angeles Times dropped the bomb. The Trump administration is going to go from revoking visas to filing federal charges. And here, our brand new pressachachis, the always scientific and never ideological dreamer Claudia, is in such a foul mood. She says that to press charges, they need evidence. Evidence, gentlemen. As if we didn't know that in Morena, evidence has the bad habit of disappearing or turning into contributions for the movement. It seems that out of sheer frustration, the United States government has decided that it no longer wants our politicians to go spend money there, the money they get from the sweat of others. In the luxury stores of San Diego or Houston, according to the most recent reports, more than 200 visas have been canceled. What a tragedy. Now, where are they going to buy their watches to pretend to be austere? On this list of unwelcome guests, there are names that stand out for their, let's say, peculiar track record. We have Ruben Rocha Moya, the brand new governor of Sinaloa, and Marina del Pilar, the governor of Baja California, among others. It seems that Washington got tired of selfies at the border and started to take a closer look. What's behind the smokescreens of the fourth transformation? By the way, regarding Ruben Rocha Moya, what we saw during his weekly conference was pathetic, to say the least. Nothing. The reporters, so professional, asked him about the power outages, and he talked about clearing drains. Of course, because who cares about a canceled visa due to ties with drug traffickers when there's a pothole to fix, right? But it doesn't just stop at a simple, you can't go to Disney. No, gentlemen. The Department of Justice has gotten serious and is now pursuing federal grand jury indictments against Mexican politicians linked to organized crime. Because here's the spicy part. Remember, the cartels aren't just naughty boys selling sketchy powder anymore. Now they are designated as international terrorist organizations. What does this mean for our illustrious rulers? Well, it means they won't be judged for administrative negligence anymore, but instead they're being lumped together with the guys who wear turbans and blow things up. What a promotion in the criminal career of the Morenistas. And to put the cherry on top of the dung cake, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, the Rambo of Adelphi Veras, Ronald Johnson, former CIA officer, Green Beret. So you can see that Uncle Sam doesn't send just any amateur. He said some words that should be tattooed on the forehead of every official. Corruption not only stops progress, it distorts it and erodes trust. You are absolutely right, Ambassador, here in La Posilga. We've known it since we were born, but thank you for confirming it with that elegant American accent. In Los Mochis, Sinaloa. A place where, interestingly, Rocha Moya is in charge on paper, but where the criminals are really in charge. The juiciest part of this gossip is remembering how some of them came to power. Morena's operatives tell wonderful stories about suitcases full of money that arrived at Rocha Moya's campaign offices in 2021. Whose money was it? Well, it belonged to the same Chapo Isidro that Washington now has in its sights. It seems that hugs, not bullets, had a price, one that was paid in cash, and the payoff was impunity. The hypocrisy of the fourth transformation is like the Maya train, extremely expensive, it doesn't work well, but they want to sell it to us as a world wonder. Notice the contrast. Rocha Moya, who was singled out by the biggest newspaper in California, gets 0 minutes and 0 seconds of criticism from Presichachis. But if it were the governor of Chihuahua, Maru Campos, then yes, bring out the protest signs. They dedicated 6 consecutive morning conferences to Maru for the sin of allegedly having CIA agents involved in an operation. Of course, for this government, a gringo agent hunting fentanyl labs is more dangerous than a governor who sees nothing while his state is on fire. In the end, the pressure worked, and the Chihuahua prosecutor, Cesar Jorregui, ended up throwing in the towel and talking about magical transportation. Do you remember that 2021 video where Cabecita de Algodon was on a very modern train with windows that were actually screens? Well, 5 years later, they finally inaugurated the famous Alaifa train, or Felipe Angeles train. To make it sound more heroic, they promised 35 minutes and it's taking people 2 hours. A total success. It cost twice as much as planned, from $12 billion to $24 billion. On its first day, there were no screens for schedules, and the machines didn't give change. But hey, at least it's no longer a Pixar simulation. Now it actually moves, even if it's at a snail's pace with asthma. The most glorious thing about the weekend was the reality check that Chacha del Bienestar got in Hidalgo. She, very dignified, told the people, of course, that there are medicines. The last thing she expected was for the good and wise people to contradict her right to her face. That wasn't in the script. Just look at this beauty on my muddy monitor.
We are investing in health centers, hospitals. I'm letting you know that. Okay. No, there are medicines. I'm going to go right now. Let's see, raise your hand. Who has been to the health center recently? For those of you who've been to the health center recently, are there no medicines? Right now we're going to go to the health center and then to the hospital to fix this once and for all. Let Alejandro Schwartz come so we can fix it, fix the medication problem. No, well, that's really bad.
I can't complain about the doctors. There are good doctors, but there is no medicine in San Bartolo. In San Bartolo, there is no medicine. We have to go out to buy medicine.
Doctor, with all due respect, I mean, because I have an appointment there every 2 months. There are doctors, but there is no medicine. We're going to see that right now on the weekend. There's only one doctor. That does happen. On weekends, there's only one, and they don't see you until they're available. But during the week, it's the same. Only one. We're going to see it now.
And as they say, seek and you shall find, he goes into a clinic. According to her, to shut people up, Marushan found out that there wasn't even any paracetamol. Her answer is that it's complicated to reach the communities. Wow, 6 years later, they discovered that Mexico has hills and difficult roads. But don't worry, she already called Vermex to send what's missing. It'll probably arrive right after the shortage ends. Common sense in the cabinet? On the other hand, do you remember that narrative about the steamroller? That idea that Morena was like a plush Godzilla that stomped on everything and nothing could stop it. Well, it turns out that in April of 2026, Godzilla turned out to be a cheap party balloon that's already got more holes than the conscience of a turncoat senator. The documents circulating in Claudia Sheinbaum's office aren't exactly love letters from her governors. But no, gentlemen, war reports where the white flag is already peeking through the windows of the National Palace. It turns out that, according to the backstabbing but very well-informed sources roaming the halls of power, for 2027, a qualified majority in the Chamber of Deputies seems more distant than honesty in a direct bidding process. Just imagine Sheinbaum Trufia with that sweet and conciliatory character who has to negotiate with the opposition because she doesn't even have enough for a simple majority anymore. It's the dream of any Democrat and the nightmare of any authoritarian with a presidential sash. The ghost of the electoral Plan B returns to haunt her, but now in a revised and expanded version. Total legislative paralysis. But wait, the rot isn't just in San Lazaro. Let's talk about the states with the 17 governorships that are up for grabs in 2027. Morena itself is already pulling out the rosary because they're basically considering them lost, just like that. No detours. 6 of them, Nuevo León, Michoacán, and San Luis Potosí, already smell like goodbye, and in 3 others they're in a statistical tie, which, in the language of losers, means we're done for, but we don't want it to be too obvious. And why is their cake falling apart? Well, because Morena became exactly what it swore to destroy, but on steroids. The anti-corruption flag ended up being a kitchen rag, all stained. There you have their brightest assets, Grandpa Monster, Adon Augusto Lopez, and his Baradora network. The living example that luxury, corruption, and politics go hand in hand while the people tighten their belts. The welfare blob, the stuffed chili nose, Andy Lopez Beltran, the junior, who, along with an erratic leadership led by Huichamari, Luisa Maria Alcalde, who turned the party not into support, but into a cement anchor tied to the neck of the Presichacha. Or what about soap's worst enemy, Fernandez Noronha, that champion of austerity who says, "I don't have to be austere," while Scheinbaum gets pissed off because nobody obeys her. What a dysfunctional family the Forti turned out to be. Luisa Maria Alcalde's abrupt departure wasn't a personal decision. For new challenges? Please, we're not that naive. It was a real kick in the backside because the numbers just don't add up. 10 months of a constant drop in voting intention. They've got Claudia more tense and uptight than usual, and the Morena brand is wearing out faster than a migrant's shoes. The "we're not the same" speech falls apart every time a new spending scandal comes to light, which practically happens every week. And meanwhile, Chacha's popularity, the one those biased pollsters put at an absurd 80%, almost more popular than Jesus Christ, at Christmas she's crashing back down to harsh reality of 52 or 54% according to polling firms that actually know how to add and aren't on the Morena payroll, like Bloomberg or Crepeso. Now, the desperate bet is Ariadna Montiel, the top boss at Being a Star, the one who handles the checkbook for the support programs. She seems to be the chosen piece to try to save the ship. Shane Baum, in his classic "I don't know anything" style, says time will tell. But we all know that in the 4th transformation, autonomy is a myth, and the pieces are moved from a single board, the one in Palenque, at La Chingada. Anyway, my dear little pigs, that's how things are in this pigsty, where it's clear that it's all about getting your hands dirty and pretending they smell like roses. President Trump has decided enough is enough, while here we keep arguing about whether there is enough evidence. Up there, they're preparing cold steel cells for those who thought they were untouchable. Rocha Moya is in the crosshairs, but he's not the only one. The list is long, and the toilet paper in Morena's offices is running out from all the panic. This isn't an anti-corruption campaign. It's cleaning out the stables, and it smells exactly like what you're imagining. I know that many of you right now are going to say, "I don't believe anything anymore. You've been saying that for months. Trump isn't going to do anything," and maybe you're right, maybe not. But the fact is that Mr. Orange is very calculating and takes his time to deliver precise blows. Just look at Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, for example, or the fall of the Ayatollah. He's going to strike when it suits him, when we want it. On the other hand, at the end of the day, cabinet and leadership changes are just makeup for a face that's already too wrinkled with corruption and indifference. Claudia Scheinbaum's main enemy is Claudia Scheinbaum herself. Her bad temper, her disdain for legitimate demands, that inability to listen that makes her seem like a block of ice, the national tragedy, but above all her submission to her boss, old Guango Lopez Obrador, have her boxed in and left her with little room to maneuver. Morena is discovering that lies have an expiration date, and that 2027 could be the year when the steamroller comes to an end. in the scrapyard. I say goodbye, but not before reminding you that if you see a light at the end of the tunnel, run, because it's probably a fourth transformation train that's running late. Breaks. Subscribe to the channel, give this crappy video a like, and share it. I'm Louis Sperman. And remember, in this pigsty, if you don't have any stains, it's just because your turn to roll around hasn't come yet. See you in the next episode of this, your one-of-a-kind pigsty. Goodbye.
This is the Pigsty, the political pig pen with Camerano.